Okay, now, so let's start, and we will be attempting, as I told you, the past paper questions. Okay, the first past paper question which we are going to attempt in today's session is a latest past paper question from ACCA website. Okay, it's a question from September-December 2021 attempt. September-December 2021 attempt, and we will be solving one question in today's session, one question in our next session, and then two you will be provided videos. Okay. Now, when you will open or you will get the examination question in front of you, it's something like this, that firstly, when you open the question, the first page is like this, that it's instruction page. Second page is also instruction page. Third page is also instruction page. Fourth page is also instruction page. Do read these instructions carefully in the exam, especially those people who are giving a skills module exam for the first time. Continuation of instruction screens. Exam summary screen. And then the exam starts. Okay. September-December 2021 exam question. Let's have a look regarding the first question. What was the first question in this? Okay. The following scenario relates to 4 requirements. Okay, following scenario relates to 4 requirements. Okay. Bella Houston manufactures 3 types of running shoes, which it sells to sporting cloth retailers. So there is a company, Bella Houston, it manufactures 3 types of running shoes. So the company is manufacturing 3 types of running shoes. Okay, so again, before starting the question, there is a question where to get the question from. I'm showing the question on the screen here, and I've told you it's September-December 21. If you need to download it, you should go to ACCA website and download it. I will share in the group after the class, but at the moment, why do you need the question? I'm sharing it on the screen. So Bella Houston manufactures 3 types of running shoes, which it sells to sports clothing retailers. Road, which are for running on roads, spikes, which are used for racing on athletic tracks, and trail, which are used for running off-road in rural locations. So in short, company is manufacturing 3 types of running shoes or 3 types of products. Company is manufacturing 3 types of running shoes or 3 types of products. One product is called road, second product is called spikes, and third product is called trail. Each of these products use differing amounts of same resources. Financial information and resource requirement relating to these products are. So financial information and resource requirements are. Remember, there are 3 products: road, spikes, trail. It manufactures 3 types of shoes, 3 products. The selling price is 60, 45, and 52. Okay, this is selling price per pair of each product. Variable cost. Material cost 5 per meter, and roads cost is 7.5. Material cost 5 per meter, spikes cost is 3, and 5 per meter trail cost is 6. Now, obviously, you might have studied when doing either classes or self-study or even at when material cost 5 per meter. When material cost 5 per meter and road has a cost of 7.5, that means it requires 1.5 meter. Material cost 5 per meter, spike has a cost of 3. That means it requires 0.6 meters. And material cost 5 per meter, trail cost is 6. That means it requires 1.2 meter. Okay, because when you say that material cost 5 per meter and the cost in road is coming 7.5, that means 1.5 meters are required. When it costs 5 per meter and trail has a cost of 6, that means 1.2 meters are required. Okay. Labor rate is 7 per hour. Okay. Labor rate is 7 per hour. Road has a cost of 7. So it's 7 per hour. Road has a cost of 7. That means it's taking 1 hour. Labor cost 7 per hour. Spikes at the cost of 10.5. That means it's taking 1.5 hours. Labor cost 7 per hour. Trail has a cost of 7. That means it's taking 1 hour. Okay. Machine hours. Machine hours are 10 per hour. Machine hours are 10 per hour. Road has a cost of 4. That means it's taking 0.4 machine hours. $10 per hour. Spikes at the cost of 2. It's taking 0.2 machine hours. And 10 per hour. Trail cost is 3. That means it's taking 0.3 machine hours. Fixed overheads, it's 4, 6, and 4. So when you deduct selling price and material costs and fixed cost, you get profit per pair of shoes 37.5, 23.5, 32. Fixed overheads are absorbed at the rate of 4 per labor hour. Bella Hussein uses a just-in-time production system. I have read the information from the first screen. Okay. The information was that Bella Houston manufactures 3 types of running shoes, which it sells to sports clothing retailers. Road, spikes, and trail. There are 3 products, and selling price was given. Material cost was given as 5 per meter, 7.5. I think you all understand that it requires 1.5 meter, 5 per meter, then 3, 0.6 meter, 5 per meter, 6, 1.2 meters. Labor is 7 per hour, 7 cost, that means 1 hour is required, 7 per hour, 10.5 in spikes, that means 1.5 hours, 7 per hour, 7 cost in trail, that means 1 hour. Machine hours are 10 per hour, and roads cost is coming 4.4 machine hours, 10 per hour, 2.2 machine hours, and 0.3 machine hours. Okay. Fixed overheads are given, profit is given. Any questions with respect to this data till now? You can ask, please, if you have any questions with respect to this data. Okay, let's move next. Then demand for the 3 products for the month of March is expected to be: roads demand is 2300 pairs. The demand for roads is 2300 pairs. The demand for spikes is 1400 pairs, and demand for trail is 1650 pairs. Okay, so demand for all products are given. Bella Houston has received a special order from Run Wild, which is not included in the demand estimates above. So it has received a special order from Run Wild, which is not included in the demand estimates above. Run Wild are major sports retailers who have an extensive customer base and are known for stocking the most popular brands of sportswear. The order is to supply a maximum of 200 pairs of each type of shoe. The order is to supply a maximum of 200 pairs of each type of shoe. So the special order is to provide 200 of each type of shoe, 200, 200, 200 at a discount of 8 on the standard selling price. But it's not for the full selling price, at a discount of 8 on the standard selling price. And this order is not included. Okay. Run Wild will charge a financial penalty if the order is not fully complete in March. So demand of 3 products for the month of March is given. Run Wild has given you a special order. It's not included in demands, 200, 200, 200. And it will charge a financial penalty if the order is not completed. If this first order is successful, Run Wild would be keen to enter into a regular supply contract. If this first order is successful, they will enter with us into a regular supply contract. Usually, Bella Houston has sufficient resources to meet production. However, during March, the maximum availability of following resources has been identified. Material only 7200 meters, labor 6900 hours, and machine time 115 hours. During March, the maximum availability of following resources has been identified. This is what the resource availability is there. Demand and resource availability for April. Bella Houston predicted that the resource availability in March would continue into April. However, it has been discovered that the availability of direct material and direct labor will be 15% less than in March. Okay, now pay attention. This one is talking about April. The above information was regarding March. Now, demand and resource availability for April. Bella Houston predicted that resource availability in March will continue into April. However, the availability of material and labor will be 15% less than in March. The available machine time and demands are unchanged. Runwile would not be placing an order in April. Okay, so for April, it has told you that Runwile won't be placing an order and the material labor will be 15% less available than March. This ends the question. And by reading the examination question, you might have got an idea that this relates to limiting factor. Okay, so first requirement is calculate the optimum plan and resulting total contribution earned for March. Please pay attention. Don't get mixed up about March and April. Calculate the optimum plan and the resulting total contribution earned for March, assuming that the order with Runwild is supplied in full. You should assume that the Runwild order is supplied in full. Okay, Runwild order is done in full. 7 months. Okay. There are some other requirements as well, and we will do it step by step. Firstly, let's deal with the first requirement. Now, I told you it's a September-December 21 last exam question. You can download it if you want, but there are some people who are asking, so let me share it with them, please, and then I will start the working. Okay, so I have shared the file in the WhatsApp group. If you want to open it at your device as well, you can open it. Anyways, so we have a bit of information here to capture. And since I will be solving question on spreadsheet, so it's better I captured it on spreadsheet. Okay, so let's just start recording some information from question so that we can start the solution. Okay, the initial information of the question was that Bala Houston manufactures 3 types of products. So we have already informed you that companies manufacturing 3 types of products: spikes, tracks, and trail. So let's just start gathering information. It's the question, Bala Houston. And this question is firstly stating company manufactures 3 products: road, spike, and trail. If you talk about road, spike, and trail, what information we are provided for road, spike, and trail? Selling price is given, and variable cost was given. Material 5 per meter, so we got to know how many meters they require because material cost was 5 per meter, and 7.5 was the cost. So 1.5 meter, 0.6 meter, and 1.2 meter. Material required 1.5 meter, 0.6 meter, and 1.2 meter. Okay. Then secondly, labor 7 per hour, then 7 costs 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 1 hour. 1 hour, 1.5 hour, and 1 hour. This is what is labor hours required. Okay. And finally, machine hours required. So it states in the question that machine hours 10 per hour. So it's 423. So 0.4 hours, 0.2 hours, 0.3 hours. Okay. 0.4, 0.2, 0.3, sorry. Okay. Then profit per pair was given 37.5, 23.5, and 32. Okay. So you know that in limiting factor analysis, we usually don't require profit. We require contribution. Okay. So if you want, you can calculate the contribution here because the question's requirement is optimum plan. If you remember optimum plan, in optimum plan, we usually use contribution, don't use profit. So you can get the contribution per unit. So selling price 60 less all variable costs means the contribution would be 60 less 7.5 less 7 less 4. You don't have to deduct fixed cost. So contribution per unit or per pair of shoe, it's 41.5 for the first product. Selling price 45 less all variable cost. Not exclude fixed cost. So selling price less variable cost till here. The contribution will be 29.5 and 36. Okay. You can take the selling price and deduct only variable cost to get contribution. Okay. Fixed overheads are absorbed at 4 per labor hour. Bella Houston uses a just-in-time system. So I have ended the information from this page. Demand for the 3 products for the month of March is expected to be. Demand is given for the 3 products: 2,300 pairs, 1,400 pairs, 1,650 pairs. So we have recorded the demand as well. Demand during the month of March. Bella Houston has received a special order from Runwild, which is not included in demand estimates above. Runwild are a major sports retailer who have an extensive customer base and are known for stocking most populous brands of sportswear. Order is to supply maximum 200 pairs of each type of shoe at a discount of 8 on the standard selling price. So extra demand run wild. $200 pairs, 200 pairs, 200 pairs. It's at a discount of 8 per pair. See, each type of shoe at a discount of 8 on the standard selling price. So you will be able to offer shoes to run wild at a discount of 8 to selling price. That means 52 for road, 37 for spike, and 44 for trail. And obviously for run wild, if the selling price is less, it has not stated anything about variable cost. So only the selling price is less. Obviously the variable cost of making remains same. So if you deduct that, the contribution would fall by 8 per pair for each shoe. That means the contribution for run wild it's not going to be 41.5 like here. It's going to be 8 less, 33.5. Okay. It's not going to be 29.5 here. It's going to be less than 8 because selling price is falling, 21.5. And here it's not going to be 36 for trail. It's 8 less, 28. Okay. This is about run wild's order. Run wild will charge a financial penalty if order is not fully complete in March. If the first order is successful, run wild would keen to enter into a regular supply contract. Usually Bella Houston has sufficient resources to meet production. However, during March, the maximum availability has been identified. In March, material only 7,200 meters, labor only 6,900 hours, and machine time 1,815 hours. So material available March is only 7,200 meters. Labor available during March is only 6,900 hours, and machine time available in March, it's 1,815 hours. This is for March. And demand and resource availability for April. Bella Houston has predicted that the resource availability in March would continue into April. However, it has been discovered that the availability of material and labor will be 15% less than in March. That's for April, that it will be less than March. And machine time demand estimates unchanged. Run wild would not be placing an order in April. This is all about April. And now we should go towards requirements. Calculate the optimum plan and resulting contribution earned for March. It's talking about March, so we don't have to look at April information. Assuming that order with run wild and supplier is in full, you are fulfilling run wild's contract. Okay, so calculate the optimum plan. Okay, now if you want to make optimum plan, there is a 5-step approach. If you want to make optimum plan, there is a 5-step approach, okay, which you have to perform, and I will be performing that approach. For optimum plan, the first step is to identify limiting factor. The first step in making optimum plan is identify limiting factor. Okay, so how do you identify limiting factor? Now, when I write this, there are many people who start discussing that this question has multiple limiting factors. See, material, Labor, machine time, there are three limiting factors. So we have studied if there are more than one limiting factors, we should solve the question through linear programming. Define variables, first step, establish constraints, establish objective function, graph the model, optimum plan. If question has more than one limiting factors, then only you can use the linear programming. If there is one limiting factor, then marginal or throughput. Throughput can't be used here because it's not mentioned. Throughput would be specifically mentioned. That's what your course outline of performance management states, that if there is single limiting factor, use marginal. And if we mention throughput, if we don't mention, then marginal. And if there are more than one, then linear programming. So there are many students who would be wondering in this question, and they did this in the exam, that they said, okay, the question is asking optimum plan. There are more than one limiting factors, material, labor, machine time. This should be done through linear programming 5 steps. You are wrong. Just mentioning that material is 7,200 meter, labor is 6,900 hours, machine time is 1,815 hours doesn't mean these three are limiting factors and start linear programming. First check, there might be only one limiting factor out of these three. Like, let's check about identify limiting factor material. Please pay attention. Check about material. How much material is required by a road? It's written 1.5 meter is required. So 1.5. And what is the demand? 2,300 pairs. So road requires 3,450 meters. Okay. Spike. How much material spike required? See, spike requires 0.6 meter. And how many units you need to make? 1,400. 840 meters. And how much material trail requires? 1.2. And how many units you need to make? Demand 1,650. So if you add them all, the material required is 6,270 only. The material required is 6,270 only. And how much is available? 7,200. There is no shortage. This is not a limiting factor. This is not a limiting factor. Okay. Similarly, if you check about labor hours, how much labor hours is required by a road? It's written 1 hour. And what is the demand of road? 2,300. So 2,300 hours required. How much is required by spike? 1.5 hours. I know what questions you are typing. Just please wait a second. 1.5. And what is the demand of spike? 1,400. 2,100 required. And what is the hours required in trail? 1 hour. What is the demand? 1,650. So if you sum them all, how much total hours are required? 6,050. And how much is the availability? 6,900. Okay. But this is also not limiting factor. So I think you got into a trap initially, that if you stated there are 3 limiting factors, material is restricted, labor is restricted, machine time is restricted, we should do a multiple limiting factors and linear programming. You are absolutely wrong. He's just trying to trap you. Mentioning only that the material is available, this quantity, labor, this, machine time, this doesn't mean they are all limiting factors. See, there won't be any shortage. Machine time required. Now, if you check about machine time required, how much machine time is required by road? 0.4. And what is the demand? 2300. Okay, 920. How much is required by spike? 0.2. What is the demand? 1400. 280. And 0.3. How much? 1650 pairs. 495. Add. $1695. Okay, and availability is 1815. This also doesn't seem limiting factor. Okay, so I would have concluded and identify limiting factor. There is no limiting factor. Okay, neither material nor labor nor machine time. But if you go back to the question, it states calculate the optimum plan and resulting contribution earned from March. Assuming that the order with run while is supplied in full, I have to make an assumption that run while order is supplied in full. So the run while order has to be supplied in full means our demand for road is not 2300. It's 200 more, 2500. Our demand for spike is not 1400, it's 1600. And our demand for trail is not 1650, it's 1850. So let's readjust the figures. Material required is 1.5, but demand is 2500 for March because run while order has to be fulfilled. For this, it's not 1400, 200 more, 1600. And for trail, it's not 1650, it's 1850. Okay, so required is 6930, but availability is still 7200, so it's not a limiting factor. Material. Labor adjusted, not 2300 road, 2500. Not 1400 spike, 1600. Not 1650, but 1850. So it requires 6750, but we are available with 6900. So this is not a limiting factor. This is not a limiting factor. Okay, but machine time required for road 0.4 into not 2300, 2500. 0.2 into 1600. And 0.3 into 1850. We require 1875, but we only have 1815. So this is the limiting factor. Machine time, this is what identify limiting factor is. So you see there is only one limiting factor, machine time. So it will be solved through marginal or throughput. It won't be solved through linear. But throughput won't be used unless it's mentioned. So that's why you must know that just mentioning something that there are 3 shortages or 3 limited availability doesn't mean all 3 are limiting factor and you should rush for optimal plan towards linear programming. Check in, identify limiting factor. If one resource, marginal or throughput. More than one, then obviously linear. Okay, once we identify limiting factor, please pay attention. We have step 2. And step 2 says that once you have identified limiting factor, you should calculate contribution per unit. Now, contribution per unit is already available for all types of shoes. 41.5, 29.5, and 36. Okay, contribution is available. I have already recorded it. Okay, you get contribution per unit. Now the third step is find contribution per limiting factor. Now contribution per limiting factor means, please pay attention on the screen, you can copy it later, I will give you time to copy. Contribution per limiting factor means whatever is the contribution. What is the contribution? 41.5 divided by limiting factor. Limiting factor is machine time. So what is the machine time of road? 0.4. Contribution per limiting factor means 41.5 is the contribution divided by the limiting factor machine time 0.4. Get contribution per limiting factor. Here contribution of spike 29.5 per limiting factor means divided by limiting factor. What is the limiting factor? Machine time. For spike it's 0. And contribution per limiting factor for trail it's 36 contribution divided by limiting factor. What's the limiting factor? Machine time 0.3. It's contribution per limiting factor. After contribution per limiting factor, you need to make a ranking which has the highest spike first, then second, and then third. You are done with 4 steps. There are 5-step approach. Identify limiting factor. I found that machine time is the limiting factor. Contribution per unit, selling price less all variable cost. Contribution per unit, already found. Then contribution upon limiting factor, machine time, ranking. And through that ranking, our priorities are set. Now we move towards the last step. That is called make optimal plan. Now making optimal plan is very easy generally. That according to this ranking, we should make optimal plan. According to this ranking, we should make optimal plan. Okay. But the problem is that according to this ranking, if we make optimal plan, that would be very easy. But we have to solve the question assuming run wild order is fully utilized. Run wild order is made in full. Okay. So we have to make an optimal plan assuming that run wild order is made in full. So in optimal plan, first fulfill run wild order. For road, for spike, and for trail, we must fulfill run wild order. Okay, so road requires how many machine hours? 0.4. And how much you have to fulfill for run wild? 200 pairs. So it requires 0.4 and you have to make 200 to fulfill run wild's order. That means 0.4 into 200, 80 machine hours gone. For spike, 0.2 machine hours required, and to fulfill run wild order, 200 pairs must be made. I'm not following the rankings at the moment because I have to fulfill run wild order first. 0.2 into 40. And for trail, 0.3 hours are required, and I have to make 200 pairs. So 0.3 into 200, 60 hours gone. So machine hours gone or utilized is 180. Okay, in run wild order. Okay, but optimum plan. Now follow rankings. So in road, spike, and trail. Now we will follow the rankings. Okay, keeping this thing in mind that machine hours are now left only how much? You had 1815, right? 180 are gone in run while order. So you're only left with 1635. So whatever you have to do in 1635 hours. So what was the first rank spike? Let's make a spike first. Spike was the first one. So let's make spike first, then second trail, and finally road. Okay, so let's make a spike first. So considering spike, how much machine hour spike is taking? 0.2 hours. And what is the normal demand? 1400 pairs. So considering this, it requires 0.2 hours and have to make 1400. 280 hours are gone. Okay, this is the first product. Then trail. For trail, how many hours we need? 0.3 hours. And what is the demand? 1650 pairs. $495 are gone. So out of this 1635, you are gone with 280 and you are gone with 495. Now for road, if you see, it requires 0.4 hours and demand is how much? 2300 pairs. So if you just calculate it, you had 1635 hours left, right? You had 1635 hours, right? I'm just showing for the purpose of sharing. 280 was gone in the first one, spike, and 495 hours were gone in the second one. So if you check that we had 1635 hours and 280 were gone and 495 were gone. So we are only left with 860 hours. We are only left with how many hours? 860 hours. So if you're only left with 860 hours, what you can do is you cannot make all road because 0.4 into 2300 requires 920 hours. You only have 860 hours. So what you can do is out of 860 hours, each hour is required 0.4. So you can divide it to get the balanced number of pairs. 2150. Okay, so that means your optimum plan is, I haven't yet found the contribution and profit, but your optimum plan is 200, 200, 200 for run while order and 2150, 1400 and 1650. Okay, so I will just write my optimum plan here. That optimum plan for road, spike, and trail is 200 pairs and 2150 pairs, total 2350 pairs. And for this, it's 200 and 1400 pairs, 1600 pairs. And for trail, it's 200 and 1650, 1850 pairs. Okay, you can just copy it and then I will do the contribution working and then this will end. Any questions you can ask, please. Okay, Miyasan, your question is wrong. We never ever use a special order contribution to do ranking. We only use the normal one because special order is a one-off one for 1 month or maybe for 15 days. It's not even continuing in April. So why would we plan something on one-off things rather than normal things? Okay, Hamza, this is not costing techniques and ABC, target costing, life cycle, throughput accounting and environmental comes in costing technique, not this. It's 2150 made normal and 200 for the special order of run wild. It's 2315 total. Okay, now if we talk about this particular requirement, it was also stating in the question that calculate the optimum plan and the resulting total contribution earned. Okay, so we have just got the optimum plan. We have not yet found the resulting total contribution. So we'll quickly just find the resulting contribution so that the 7 max requirement is over. So how to get the resulting contribution? There are two different contributions here from run wild order and contribution from normal order. Okay, so we have clearly known that what is the contribution from run wild order. You see here it's given contribution per unit from run wild order 33.5, 21.5, 28. It was $8 less than the normal one. So it's 33.5 per unit, and you made how many units? 200. Then it's 21.5 per unit, and how many units you made? Run wild 200. And it's 28 per unit for trail. How many units? 200. Okay. So the total contribution is going to be from run wild order okay, but from normal order, this is the contribution from normal order 41.5, 29.5, 36. So 41.5, and how many units did you make? 2150 for road, right? Then 29.5 per unit, and how many units you made? Normal 1400, and then 36 per unit, and how many units you made? 1650. You add these, and the total contribution will be the addition of both of these 16,600 plus 189925 206525. You can note this as well, please. No, you are multiplying it 2315 to 41.5. No, it's 2150 because for 200 special order, it's different. And for normal order, I'm opening the cell. It's 41.5 multiplied by 2150 with the normal order you made. For here, it's 29.5 multiplied by the normal order. So there are two contributions in between. Okay, now I am moving towards part B of this question. It's 4 marks. Calculate the maximum financial penalty Belarus would be prepared to accept from Runwile if it does not complete Runwile's order in full. Okay, maximum penalty. You know that it was written in the question that if we don't fulfill the Runwile's order, they will charge a penalty. So maximum financial penalty if you do not complete Runwile's order. Okay, it's very easy, 4 mark requirement. Okay, maximum financial penalty if you don't fulfill Runwile order. Okay, let's just copy paste some information from above because I don't want to disturb the requirements. Okay, now check that how will you find the maximum penalty if we do not fulfill Runwile order. Now you all know that material required was 1.5, 0.6, 1.2 meter, labor hours required was 1 hour, 1.5 hour and 1 hour, machine hours required was 0.4 hours, 0.2 hours and 0.3 hours. Labor hours required 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 1 hour, material required 1.5, 0.6, 1.2 meter. Contribution per unit from normal was 41.5, 29.5 and 36. And demand was 2300, 1400, 1650 pairs, but extra demand was from Runwile, 200 each. But the contribution from Runwile was 8 less due to selling price being less. This was the material available, labor available, and machine time available. Okay. We had to make an optimum plan, right? Now, if we had to make an optimum plan, so I checked that there are 3 limiting factors. So I should not rush to linear programming. First, I should see whether there is 1 limiting factor or 3. So I multiplied the material required by the demand and the Runwile order. So it was 6930, availability was more. So I told you there is no limiting factor. This one, no limiting factor. This one was limiting factor. Okay. Then we found contribution per unit, 41.5, 29.5, 36, and contribution over limiting factor, then ranking. And when we made optimum plan. So what did we do in optimum plan? We first fulfill Runwile order and then follow the rankings. Let's suppose it's asking what penalty will come if we do not fulfill Runwile order. See, pay attention. if we do not fulfill run wild order in full, that's what the requirement is. Calculate the maximum penalty if Belarus should be prepared to pay if it does not complete the order in full. What is the penalty which we have to pay, we will be prepared to pay if we do not fulfill run wild order in full? So we have the identify limiting factor, we have the contribution per unit, contribution per limiting factor ranking. In optimum plan, we first fulfill run wild order and then follow the rankings. Let's suppose if we do not fulfill run wild order in full. In that case, we will first follow rankings. In that case, we will first follow rankings. Okay. The rankings are first for spike, second for trail, and third for road. So if we do not fulfill run wild order in full, because part A was if assume run wild order was fulfilled in full. So we first had to make run wild order. Now part B is what is the penalty if we do not fulfill run wild order in full. So let's see if we do not fulfill run wild order in full. We will first follow normal rankings. First, we will make spike, 0.2 hours. And the demand is 1400 pairs. So this will consume 280 hours. Then trail, 0.3 hours required. And demand is 1650 pairs, so 495 hours. And road, 0.4 hours required, demand is 2300 pairs, so 0.4 into 2300 pairs. This will consume your 920 hours plus 280 hours plus 495 hours. 1695 hours are gone. Okay. We are first following rankings. Okay. So we first followed the rankings and then we will fulfill run wild order because we are solving the question if we do not fulfill run wild order. So obviously if we do not fulfill, we will first follow rankings and then fulfill run wild order. So now we had 1815 hours available. Okay. And 1695 are gone in our work. 1695 have been gone in our work first. We are 1815. We are only left with 120. We are only left with 120. Obviously, first we will make spike because that's the first rank. 0.2 hours, 200 pairs. 40 would be gone. Then in run wild order, we will make trail. 0.3 hours required, 260 gone. And out of 120, we are gone with 60 and 40. So only the hours left are 20. Okay. 0.4 hours is taken. You need 200 pairs. You won't be able to make 200 pairs. Okay. You are only left with 20 hours. So 20 divided by 0.4. You would be only able to make 50 pairs. Okay. So now your optimum plan is going to be like this. I have just wrote that now your optimum plan is going to be like this. that for road, you are still making 2300 pairs and 50 pairs. So 2350. Okay. For spike, you are still making 1600 pairs. See, 1400 and 200. And for trail, you are still making 1850 pairs, 1650 and 200. Okay. But now what would be your contribution? Your contribution from normal order is 41.5 and you made 2300 pairs. Okay. 41.5 and you made 2300 pairs. Okay. For here, it's normal contribution 29.5 and you made 1400 pairs. And for this, your normal contribution is 36 and you made 1650 pairs. For run wild, 33.5 is the contribution for road, but now you have only made 50 roads. It's 21.5 per unit for spike. You have made 200 spike. And it's 28 per pair for trail, and you have made 200. Now, if you add them both, it's 11575 plus 19615. Your total contribution is 207725. Now, pay attention. Now your contribution became 207725 if you don't fulfill run well order. And if you fulfill run well order, its contribution was 206525. So that means if you fulfill run well order, you are getting 206525 contribution. And if you don't fulfill run well order, you are getting 207725. So what is beneficial? Not fulfilling. What is beneficial? Not fulfilling. Because if you don't fulfill, you are getting an extra contribution of 1200. You are not fulfilling, you checked, I'm getting 207725 contribution. And if you are fulfilling, I just checked above in part A, you are getting 206525. So it's better not to fulfill. How much benefit you will get? 1200 if you don't fulfill. This is the benefit. So if by not fulfilling an order, you are getting benefit of 1200, what is the maximum penalty you would be prepared to pay? 1200. You won't pay more than 1200, because if you pay more than 1200 penalty, then it's better that you fulfill run well order. So you won't fulfill run well order. That's the decision, because you're getting more benefit. And if you're getting benefit of 1200, the maximum penalty you're going to pay is 1200. Okay. Please copy. Any questions you can ask. Sanala, I've seen your statement, but what are you trying to say in that statement? Hamza, we don't decide on the basis of contribution. We decide on the basis of contribution per limiting factor. So contribution per limiting factor is the poorest of road. Yes, but your point is that even if we know in advance, we should not solve, because if you don't show these workings, how would you get marks? Or you would just write that since just by seeing I am observing this, so why I need to calculate. So examiner would simply give you 0 marks. Even I knew in advance that which product is giving the highest contribution per unit or what is the ranking, but I still need to perform the 4 steps for the marks.
मरियम नवाज के जो स्टेट
Sanola, your question doesn't seem valid here. The amount of penalty is not given in the question. It's asking in part B. Why would it give you the penalty and then ask what is the penalty we would be willing to pay? So we have to calculate the penalty. So obviously, if by not fulfilling order, we are getting a benefit of 1200, that's what our maximum limit of penalty would be. So you are saying the penalty is not given. So why would it give something when it is asking? Zad, the working of optimum plan is in front of you. I'm just highlighting it as well for your ease. No, no, Ibrahim, it's enough to store the 5-step working. There is just a one-line statement. The maximum payable penalty is 1200, and this optimum plan workings that if we don't fulfill run while order, then first we will do our normal calculation, then run while order. So maximum penalty is 1200. There is no need to make long and long statements and try to impress the examiner via long statements. He doesn't get impressed. Even look at the past paper answer. It's just a one-line statement that maximum payable penalty is 1200. Muhammad, if we don't receive any extra contribution, if we don't receive any extra contribution by not fulfilling, obviously then we will fulfill order. And when we will fulfill order, there won't be any question of penalty. So your question is wrong. If we are receiving extra contribution by not fulfilling this order, then only we will not fulfill order. And then only we will be prepared to pay penalty. Yes. Okay, now let's complete part B and part C. Discuss whether Bella Houston should fulfill run while order in March. It's a 4-mark requirement. Whether Bella Houston should fulfill run while's order in March. I'm just writing few points, but it would be very advisable to read, examine our answer. We will get a more clear-cut idea. But the question is whether we should fulfill run while order in full in March. So you should write financially. It seems that we should not fulfill run while order in full in March because we are getting more benefit if we do not fulfill it. Okay, it's 4 marks requirement. So financially, it seems that it is asking whether we should fulfill on while order. So financially, it seems we should not fulfill order because we are getting more benefit if we not fulfill it. However, in real world, decisions are not only taken on financial ground, but we take into account non-financial factors also, like it clearly states that Run Wild is a big retailer. Run Wild is a big retailer. So if we fulfill order and our 200 pairs go on a big retailer store, so our marketing will increase. See, it's written that Run Wild is a big retailer. So when your shoes go to a big retailer store, your advertisement marketing increases. And it's also shown that Run Wild is spreading an order in March. And if it is successful, it will give us further orders. So future orders may be beneficial. Okay. Plus, if we don't fulfill order and penalty is applied, it may affect our reputation. So you can write the first paragraph of mine and then discuss these 3 points in 1, 1, 2, 2 lines. You will easily get 4 marks regarding it. Okay. So considering the non-financial factors, it is better that you should fulfill order. Considering non-financial factors, it is better to fulfill order. On financial grounds, it seems you should not fulfill because of financial benefit of 1200. But other factors need to be considered, that marketing will increase, reputation, future orders may be placed. So considering these non-financial, it is better you should fulfill. Okay, now let's move to the last part and end this question and the class. Define variables and formulate the constraints and objective function to be used in linear programming model to determine the optimum plan. Obviously, you won't be asked to make graphs in the question. You will be either provided graphs or you won't be asked such requirement. Graphs making is not a part of PM syllabus. Define the variables, formulate the constraints and objective function. So you have to do 3 steps of linear programming: define variables, establish constraints, and objective function. We'll just complete it quickly. So you are first asked to define variables. How many products are there? 3. So let X is equal to roads, Y equals to spikes, and Z equals to trails. This is what defined variables is. That define variables for the products. So you said that X is equals to roads and Y equals to spikes, all the products, and Z equals to trails. So this is defined variables. Okay. Now, once you define the variables, after defining variables, it states that you need to establish constraints. After defining variables, you need to establish constraints. Now, how do you establish constraints? Remember, material is 7,200 meters available. Material is 7,200 meters available. And X roads is needing 1.5 meter. Remember? It's 7,200 meters available. And if you go above, road was making 1.5 meter. Okay. Then 0.6, then 0.2. So 7,200 meters are available, material. I just need to check whether it's asking for March or April. Okay, see, it's a very important requirement. Define variables and formulate the constraints of object function to be used in linear programming model to determine the optimum usage in April. Else what I've done wrong. So define variables, formulate constraints, objective function, and this needs to be done for April. So constraints for April. There is no run while order. X requires, roads require 1.5 meters. So 1.5x plus the other requires 0.6 meter, 0.6 y, and trails require 1.2 meters. So 1.2 z. 1.5x plus 0.6y plus 1.2 z should be less than equals to 7,200. No, material will be 15% less. Okay, so it won't be 7,200. It will be 15% less, 6,185. The other constraint is labor. That's also 15% less. Okay. So the first product was taking 1 hour, 1x. The other was taking 1.5 hours, so 1.5y. And the third was again taking 1 hour, so 1z. Should be less than equals to, not 6,900. It's for April, 10% less, 5,865. Okay. Machine time will be unchanged. So Z I think required, X I think required, roads required 0.4 machine hours. So 0.4x plus the other one required 0.2, 0.2y plus 0.3 Z. The third one required 0.3. Should be less than equals to same, 1815. Demand, maximum demand is also a constant. So X maximum demand was 2300 pairs. It will be unchanged for April. So X should be less than equals to 2300. Spikes, Y maximum demand was 1400. Y should be less than equals to 1400. And Z, that is trail, maximum demand is 1650, should be less than equals to 1650. And you need to make a non-negativity one that states X, Y, Z should be less than equals to 0. This is established constraints. I think my calculator made a mistake. It's 6120. So define variables is done, established constraint is done. And what was it asking? The third thing? Establish objective function. So objective is to maximize profit or contribution. So contribution from the first product was 41.5. So 41.5x plus from the second one, it was 29.5. So 29.5y plus from the third one, it was 36z. This is the objective to maximize 41.5x plus 29.5y plus 36z. These were the only three requirements that you need to define variables, establish constraints, establish objective function. I have done all these three, and this ends our 20-mark question. Okay, you can copy that, and then we will end the class. And in the next meeting, we will do the other past paper question of ACC examination, so you get a further idea. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Else, after copying, you can leave. Take care. Okay, one question is that why not 200 is taken in constraint of run while. So you're clearly seeing that we are making this for April, and it's clearly written that run while will not place an order in April. Okay, and one more thing that we will discuss all the things regarding next meeting. It's tomorrow, same timing on the group. And one more thing that recording takes at least 3-4 hours to prepare. Okay, it's not magic that just the classes and the recording is prepared. So I will share recording on the group once it's ready. Okay, take care. And Miyasan, I also mentioned that when you need to make the graph, because graph only has 2 axes. So you are again listening to my half statement. Okay, when you make a graph, it can only handle 2 variables. But if you don't have to make the graph, there can be 4 variables as well. Okay, so don't just understand the half concept. So I don't think if you don't have to make the graph, the product has 3 products or 4 products or 5 products. It's very easy to establish constraints of all. It's very easy to establish objective function. So don't just stick to a fact that we have to remain like this. Obviously, you should keep your mind open for performance management exams. Okay. Any further questions, please ask on the WhatsApp group. Thank you.